There are 12 weird facts about blood pressure, and at the end of the video I'm going to tell you who's right when it comes to correcting bad blood pressure, and there's a clue. It's not me. Number one is blood pressure can vary from moment to moment. Literally, you could check your blood pressure and then let the cuff deflate, wait 30 seconds, check your blood pressure again, and the numbers are totally different. The big problem with this is it can vary wildly from patient to patient. Sometimes the numbers can change 20 points. This is a major problem because let's say your blood pressure is 140/75, and then all of a sudden it's 124/76. Which blood pressure is the normal blood pressure? This is a major problem because in one case, you would be giving the patient drugs to lower their blood pressure, and in another case, you'd be thinking that they're normal. This is a challenge. Check your own blood pressure, wait 30 seconds, check it again, see if the numbers are exactly the same. The blood pressure varies wildly. Blood pressure is not like our age. Today, if you're 57 years old, you're 57 years old the entire day. But blood pressure fluctuates because the test is a ballpark test. It's giving you a ballpark of the number. It's not a super accurate test. And that's just inherent in the nature of testing. Number two, we call hypertension a disease, but it's really not a disease. High blood pressure is simply a reaction to something that's going wrong inside the body. It's a response to an underlying condition. And what is that underlying condition? A hardening of the arteries due to chronic inflammation over a long period of time. High blood pressure occurs because of the lack of pliability of our arteries. The best long-term treatment for hypertension or high blood pressure is to improve the pliability of the arteries. And what I mean by this is an artery is like a garden hose, and the more it can become flexible and expand with each heartbeat, the blood pressure goes down. So while we classify it as a disease, it's really not just a disease of isolation. It's a reaction to an underlying condition. Number three, and this is a big frustration, is that the criteria for what constitutes high blood pressure has changed over the years. When I graduated from chiropractic school in the mid-90s, high blood pressure was considered, well, you started talking to the patient at 140/90. When it got to 160/90, that's when you sent them to the medical doctor for treatment because clearly they weren't going to change their lifestyle at that point. Then it became 140/90 was the time that you sent them. Now, as of 2017, they changed it. They changed it to calling 120/80 elevated blood pressure. So even 122, 124 was considered elevated. You got a little slap on the wrist when you went to the doctor, but they still kind of said, well, you're not ready for medication. The American College of Cardiology and the American Heart Association got together, put these guidelines together. Now, as of 2025, they've changed some recommendations as well. And so it's an evolving process, but it seems like the numbers keep going down, down, down to the point where almost no one can pass the test. Number four, high blood pressure is linked to dementia later in life. The reason this is thought to be true is because high blood pressure is linked to damage of our arteries. It damages our large arteries and it damages the smaller arteries. And the arteries that supply blood to our brain, once they're damaged, the brain cells start to die, and that's what can possibly lead to dementia. Number five, it's known as the silent killer. There are no symptoms. Now, in extreme cases, there might be symptoms. You might be feeling off, you might get headaches, you just may not feel well. But for the most part, the average person who has high blood pressure cannot sense that they have high blood pressure. So it's a condition in our body where you don't actually know that it exists until it damages your organs to such an extent that it's the organs that you get symptoms from. So high blood pressure is known as the silent killer because really there are no symptoms of high blood pressure. Number 6, I have some patients with this problem. Nobody cares if you have low blood pressure. One of the fascinating things that if you type in blood pressure on the internet, you can go down Google 10 pages and you just simply won't find anything in regards to lower blood pressure. Some people actually suffer with low blood pressure. They feel faint when they stand up, they feel dizzy, but for the most part, there just isn't a whole lot of research on how to solve low blood pressure. And the reason why is because most people have high blood pressure. There's money to be made in coming up with pharmaceutical agents that solve high blood pressure, because high blood pressure can lead to a heart attack or a stroke, and that's the #1 killer in America. Low blood pressure isn't even on the list of reasons people die, unless it's 0/0. You could call 0/0 the worst blood pressure. But seriously, people that have low blood pressure are really kind of screwed, because you could feel faint, you could feel dizzy, you could fall down, break a hip because of your low blood pressure. There just isn't a whole lot to do, because if you take the average general practitioner and you watch what they do during the course of a day, 30, 40 patients a day, almost nobody has low blood pressure. Everyone has high blood pressure. So you're kind of screwed in that regard. Number 7, the average male has 7 millimeters of mercury higher blood pressure than the average female in general. But once menopause hits, the blood pressure becomes more equal from male to female. That's kind of fascinating. Number 8, different ethnic groups tend to have higher blood pressure than other ethnic groups. Now, whether this is because of diet or just genetics or it's a naturally occurring phenomenon is up for debate. At the risk of getting kicked off YouTube and the algorithm being upset because I said something that can be misinterpreted, we're just going to leave it at that. But it's unfortunately kind of a weird fact. Some ethnic groups have higher blood pressure more often compared to others. Bummer. Number 9, statistically, if you have high blood pressure, you're more prone towards depression. And depression is a big one because you just start circling the drain and spiraling downhill. There isn't a whole lot of reasons why they can explain why high blood pressure gives you a greater risk for depression, but for the most part, statistics don't lie. Or what do they say? There's no 3 lies. Statistics, damn statistics, and politics, or something like that. I don't know what the saying is. Anyway, higher blood pressure, greater risk of depression. Number 10, 90% of all hypertensive cases are what's called essential hypertension. And I really hate that word, because it sounds like when I hear the word essential, that means you're supposed to have it. You're not supposed to have hypertension. But if 90% of all cases are essential hypertension, what does that mean? What it means is the doctors cannot find a cause of high blood pressure. And I call BS on this. I think doctors know exactly what it is. It's just hard to communicate to patients. Like I said in the beginning of the video, the reason why you have hypertension is because of the hardening of the arteries. The arteries are less pliable. It isn't that you have too much blood, it's that you have a hardening of the arteries. How do arteries harden? Through the aging process and through chronic inflammation over a long period of time, largely because of our lifestyle, our diet, lack of exercise, smoking, lack of omega-3 fatty acids, lack of potassium-rich foods, lack of magnesium-rich foods. There's a whole host of reasons why our body is chronically inflamed. But this chronic inflammation starts to harden the arteries. The arteries become less pliable. They can't expand with each heartbeat. The blood pressure goes up. Doctors know this. They should, but we're always trying to help people with blood pressure by giving them medications that make them go to the bathroom more. The theory is that if we just reduce the blood volume, the blood pressure will go down, which it does. You could slow down the heart. You can cause the body to retain more potassium. These are mechanisms by which medications can make the blood pressure look normal. But ultimately, the real question is, how do you get the arteries to become more pliable? Hold that thought. Number 11 I find interesting is that stress affects the systolic number more than it affects the diastolic number. And exercise will affect the systolic number more than it'll affect the diastolic number. By the way, if you don't know, the systolic number is the first number. It's the bigger number, and the diastolic is the smaller number. When you get a blood pressure reading, it's one number over another number. The first number is the systolic, which is bigger. The second number is lower. That's the second number. So you get the idea. And when you're stressed, sometimes your systolic number can be 30 points higher than if you are not stressed. This is very common with white coat syndrome. White coat syndrome is when doctors used to wear white coats. We'd walk in the room, the patient would get nervous, and their adrenal gland would secrete adrenaline, and there's cortisol, and then all of a sudden their blood pressure goes up, but it's usually the systolic. I've done this on other videos in the past where I will show what happens during exercise. I get on my bike, I do a bunch of sprints, I check my blood pressure right away. The systolic goes up, but the diastolic really isn't affected as much. So when it comes to white coat syndrome, when it comes to stress, interestingly enough, the systolic is more affected than the diastolic. The 12th and last weird fact about blood pressure is the person who is right, or was right, about solving blood pressure was not your doctor. It was Jack LaLanne. Remember Jack LaLanne? Well, did you know that Jack LaLanne, for a period of time early in his career, was a chiropractor? His daughter was a chiropractor. His daughter practiced in Los Angeles, and she graduated from the same chiropractic school that I did many years ahead. So she's now retired. But Jack LaLanne used to say that if it grew out of the ground, eat it. If it came off a tree, eat it. If it had a parent, you should eat it. But if it came manufactured and it's in a box, you shouldn't eat it. If it came from nature, eat it. If it doesn't come from nature, if it's man-made, don't eat it. Very simple dietary advice. I think right now what happens is, particularly because of social media, it's more extreme. We tend to overcomplicate dietary recommendations. We tend to nitpick at the little nuances that dictate what my diet is compared to your diet. And people fight constantly over what the best diet is. You could probably name yourself 12 different diets. You've got the keto diet, the ketovore diet, the carnivore diet, you've got the OMAD diet, you've got intermittent fasting, you've got Mediterranean, you've got zone diet, Blue Zone diet, you've got the South Beach diet, North Beach diet, grapefruit diet. It just goes on and on. But ultimately, the less processed foods you eat and the more exercise you get tends to help with our overall health and our chronic inflammation. And this chronic inflammation, if we keep it low, will reduce the likelihood of our arteries becoming less compliant and less pliable. And the more our arteries are pliable, the less our blood pressure would be. These are the 12 weird facts about high blood pressure. Now, in the interest of time, I can't just keep going on and on. I'll bet you there's some other weird facts. Why don't you let me know what they are in the comment section down below? And I'm not going to bore you with this whole thing at the end when YouTubers go, would you please subscribe? It helps the algorithm. And please give me a thumbs up and hit that bell notification. I'm not even going to say that crap because I just wanted to give you some good information. Watch this video maybe.